G'day ladies and gents, and welcome back to War Thunder. Today, we're going to be having a look at a pretty cool game, to be honest. Not so cool because it's on a cold map, but jokes aside, we're going to be taking a look at the 10.5cm King Tiger. Now this tank was never built, it was planned, and pretty much that's all she wrote about the 10.5. There's no mock-up, there's nothing, because they were thinking of putting the 105 on the King Tiger instead of the 88, but it's not really practical because the gun is huge. The breach is massive, and you probably would have needed to remove most of the crew from the turret. But at least we have some semblance of it in War Thunder. It was removed from the regular tech tree because of this reason, and now it's sort of a rare event vehicle, kind of like the LA-174. I would like an opportunity to grind it out again for those that don't have it. I really think it's a cool opportunity, and it's another King Tiger. It's pretty interesting. It's got almost the same effectively shell as the King Tiger 88, but it's just a little bit better. And instead of the big gun, you trade it off for the rate of fire. Honestly, I think I would still take the King Tiger 88. Well, obviously the King Tiger 105 also has a better engine. I believe it has the SLA-16 engine, so it's a little bit more maneuverable, a little bit more mobile. But at 6.7, it doesn't really make a difference. Here I am at top tier. Well, I am top tier. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to play this tank the way that I would play a proper heavy tank. You see, when you're down tiered, if you have a lineup, you take out your medium tank, your heavy tank, because you can use that armor a bit more effectively. And if you're up tiered somewhat, you take maybe a light tank, maybe an armored car, maybe a medium tank. And for the Germans, I would take the Panther 2 if I was at 7.7, because I have the mobility. I am a lower spawn cost, so maybe I can get into a plane easier. Maybe I can do some more damage that way easier. But in the King Tiger at top tier, you really are an absolute powerhouse. And I'm going to try and hold this corner. You can see me every single time I play Germany and I play this sort of tier. I will always try and hold a corner or a corridor, because these German heavy tanks are really, really good for that. Not only that, but they have such a fantastic gun. You can see even the angled armor of the AC-4 does not stand a chance against the long 105mm gun. It's a fantastic weapon. It does trade it off for a very low rate of fire compared to other weapons, though. You have something like a 13 to 16 second reload, whereas the T-29, for example, has somewhere around a 14 to 12 second reload. Somewhere in that ballpark. So you're going to be out reloaded by everything except for the 122. And you can see there, I'm going to go for that lower front plate shot on the side, straight into the ammunition rack, and absolutely blows up a T-29, T-34, T-30, you name it. If you penetrate that spot, you will blow it up. No questions asked. Pershing, anything, M46, M48, maybe the M60 as well. I can't quite remember. But this particular tank has such a strong high... It's got so much explosive filler in the round that it will destroy almost everything. And it just works now. I used to struggle with it. I used to really struggle with the damage on this gun. And I think they changed something, honestly, because it just works now. It is so good. I try and go for the shot on the M26 there, but no dice. I don't really get the shot. The gun does bounce around a little bit, but it is a heavy tank, so it doesn't bounce around for too long. Unlike, for example, the Panther or the M18, the gun doesn't really bounce around as much, and you can take an effective sort of short stop shot, if you will. You don't you just let it roll. You don't press the W or the S key to go backwards, and you let it roll, and that way you get a sort of gradual slowdown, and you can position the gun where you want it, and you can get off little snapshots. I would recommend, obviously, taking your time with shots if you have the opportunity, but if you're in a situation where you need to make a quick snapshot, then you may not have a choice than to use that sort of short stop. Now, as you can see, I'm going to put myself up to my favorite spot in the entire map of this point, especially in a German heavy tank. Now, German heavy tanks have two things going for them. Fantastic gun, as you can see, deleting that M26 Pershing by shooting it in the lower front plate. And it also has fantastic hull armor. What it doesn't have is good turret armor and good flanking armor. Obviously, if you shoot a tank on the sides, you will have a better chance at penetrating them. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to angle my armor to the point where I think that his APDS shell is not going to penetrate. And I can see that he's sort of missing the turret. And if he gets another shot that doesn't penetrate, then I know that he's stock and he's using the AP or the APCR shell. God, I almost forgot the name of it. So I'm going to wait for that reload. I'm going to wait for that repair. Just quickly to get my turret ring back. My gun's reloaded. I snap around and kill him. The Walker Bulldog should have pulled back or should have pushed me when he knew that I was repairing. But I don't really have time to sort of rest on my laurels because I have two tanks approaching me. I have a T-25 and a Jumbo. Now, I didn't know it was a T-25 at first. I thought it might have been a T-29. I thought it might have been a Pershing with the long barrel. And so I don't want to take any risks. So I'm going to side scrape around the corner here. I go and the gun bounces on the turret of the Jumbo. So I only get the barrel, which is not ideal, but it's something. I've disabled one tank, so if he flanks me, he's no longer a problem unless he stops and repairs, which I wouldn't stop and repair in front of me, not at all. But here we can see he comes around the corner. I'm not going to take the shot. I'm going to wait for the other tank, and I can see him there. I'm going to shoot the turret, and it's a T-25. So I get a little bit of relief, but at the same time, he could have had APCR. The relief is short-lived, though, because I have a T-29 who I angle against just in time, and he undershoots me. So he gets the side armor, which is fairly well angled. So I get off scot-free, basically. Just waiting for this gun to reload. Again, you start losing crew members. You have two loaders. It's going to take a long time to reload the gun. You're looking at upwards of 20 seconds. So we're getting into IS-2 territory here. It's incredible, but at the same time, you trade that off for a bit more penetration and a much greater damage. Now, a lot of people like to compare the T-29 and the King Tiger. I think that the King Tiger and the T-29 are more or less on equal terms. They have different strengths and different weaknesses, and you can see here I'm in a sort of a face-off with a T-29. He's got the 50 cals, sure. He's got the higher penetrating round. He doesn't have, in the case of the King Tiger 88, the reload. He doesn't have as much armor. And you might think, well, everyone knows where to shoot a King Tiger. You shoot it in the turret, and you one-shot it there. And you would be right to some extent, or to most extents. But at the same time, the T-29 has larger and more weak spots than the King Tiger. For example, if you shoot the upper front plate, minus the tracks on the front, you will penetrate and you will kill 90% of the time. If you shoot the lower front plate, you will penetrate and you will kill 90% of the time. If you shoot the turret mantlet, you will penetrate and you will kill 90% of the time. Do you see the pattern here? You have to be pretty unlucky or extremely lucky like me. Not really. I sort of know where that weak spot is, and I'm getting used to the King Tiger bouncing. The gun on the T-29 is its saving grace, that one-shot potential, but you need to get that first shot off. And if you can block it using an angle, sort of baiting the shot with the good hull armor that you have in the King Tiger, you will win most of your fights. I honestly prefer, in most cases, the King Tiger over the T-29 because of this reason. And on release, obviously it wasn't that easy. The T-29 had much stronger turret armor, and also a lot of people didn't know where to shoot it. And that's one of the problems with a new heavy tank, is no one knows where to shoot it. But you can see, if you sort of know what you're doing, you can really pull off a decent kill number. And you can also pretty much bring the fight to the unexpected. You can take on things that otherwise would just run over you in other tanks. I would have died several times over in the Panther 2, and I would have died multiple times over in, say, the RU-251. The thing is, the King Tiger brings that sort of survivability that you need in some tanks, and even when you face up against Heat FS, you can angle your components, because armor becomes slowly irrelevant around the mid to late 40s with the advent of Heat FS and the development of tanks like the T-54's Heat FS, things like the Pattons, things like the Carnarvon, the Centurion, the Conqueror. These tanks bring in a sort of new era where armor is less of a driving force, and it's more, in War Thunder at least, how you can survive multiple shots of this shell by angling your components. You can see that if I were to be engaged, I should put my right hand side first, because that is where the machine gunner sits. So if the Heat FS contacts the tank and penetrates that spot in front of the machine gunner, a lot of it will be absorbed by said machine gunner, and that will protect my crew, for example. Or, in the case of my turret, I can hide the turret, or I can bait out the shot on the other side where the loader and the commander are compared to where the gunner is. It is harder. It is a lot harder, and the T-29 benefits in this way a bit more, because it has a bit more space, and it has a bit more funky components. So any Heat FS rounds don't really tend to do as much on the T-29, and they do more so on the King Tiger. But if you do come up against things like T-54s, come up against things like the M26 Pershing, the T-29, anything with APHE and that needs to use that APHE, the IS-2, even the IS-6, the IS-3, you can really make yourself work against these things. And it does work. Angling your armor is still a viable method, and it is fun. I admit it is fun. But it is not always going to happen in War Thunder, because the way tanks are balanced is by their rough capability. And of course, we would love to have this meta every single day. The armor meta, where the meta is T-29 and King Tiger and Jagdtiger and IS-2 and IS-4, IS-3, but it just doesn't work that way. So we have this to work with. Use a lineup, use your Panther 2 or your Panther G, and use your King Tiger, and you'll have fun. Anyway, ladies and gents, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this 8 or 9 kill game, something like that. But anyway, until then, take care, and I'll catch you next time.